Hello watchers. I recently got a video recommended to me by YouTube called Orchestral Practice Piece Number 1 Fanfare by a composer called Hudson Holland. And it's basically an orchestral fanfare, and I've never done something like that before. It was quite simple. I thought, okay, it's clearly distinguishable what this piece aims to do. The instruments that are playing, obviously a lot of brass and everything. And I thought, why not take this piece and try to recreate it? And that's what I did. And you can follow along, because I'm going to explain every single step and every melodic choice in this breaking down music video. Okay, so the first thing that I did, I downloaded this YouTube video so that I could import it into my Reaper project as a reference track. That's the first thing I did. I won't play this track here because I'm not too concerned about, copyright claims, but it's obviously his video. So if you want to watch the video, then please go over to his channel and give him the view for his original piece, and you will be able to listen to my alternative version on this channel. Okay, now that you might have heard the original one, I imported it to the project and I mapped the tempo. So basically I imported it and I went ahead to tempo tab and I noticed that it was 79 BPM. And the tempo of the project slows down right at the end of the project to 66 BPM. I manipulated my tempo map so that by adding, a tempo marker with Alt Shift C here. So that's basically the tempo thing first. And then I sat down and thought, why not take a melodic sketch via piano so that I've got an idea of the entire melody. But I'm not a huge guy for impressive piano sketches. What I usually do is I take the more important melodic things that I can hear or that I have in mind, sketch it out via piano, but at some point I'm going to switch over to actually putting re-instruments on this thing, because at a certain stage of getting into a piece, I'm in a situation where I think I really want to hear this instrument on this line now, so that I get the feeling for which instrument could fit where and everything snaps in place. So basically I do the piano sketch first, and then I stop doing that and compose and finish composing with 3 instruments. So my piano sketch is not what the entire piece does. It's basically the, about 2/3 of it. I will just play it to you so that you get an idea of what it does. Let's solo this and play it for you once. As you can see, no modwee, nothing, just plain notes. I actually even didn't play anything on keyboard in here. I programmed everything via MIDI editor and Reaper. And that's the entire melodic idea that I sketched down. And then I thought, why not start taking things over to the actual instruments? And that's what I did. So let's just unsolo this and open up my orchestration folder here, in which I've got obviously the 4 segments: strings, brass, woodwinds, percussion. And in addition to that, I've got some runs, which are basically strings plus winds runs, and I'm entirely unsure where to put this, in strings or winds, so they basically live next to my entire section folders in Reaper. Okay, let's start with the things that I actually started with, which was the brass. I started with the brass. Obviously, it's a fanfare, you do a lot of brass. And what I started with was the trombone ensemble from Cinebrass Core. And I had a few issues with that, which I just noticed when loading it in. I wanted to key switch initially, but I noticed that if you key switch from legato to a non-legato articulation, like staccatos for example, which is what I have to do here, or shorts, eighths, I think it is in Cinebrass, because Cinebrass doesn't have like the usual staccato and everything. It basically offers eighths, quarters, halves, and legatos, I think. That the delay for the shorts is not as long as the delay for the legato lines, which really messed up my timing. So what I had to do with the Cinebrass library, this is a Cinebrass library specific issue, I had to split it into 2 separate tracks with 2 separate delays. One track doing the legato lines, one line doing the staccatos, so the short notes. I'm not entirely happy with it, but in the context of the piece, it works. I tried different libraries, like I tried Spitfire Audio's BBC Symphony Orchestra Trombone Ensemble, but I didn't find this to be piercing enough. Like, when you hear the brass, this one, the Cinebrass Trombones, they really pierce, like they really resonate a lot. They, you know, there's this crunchy sound, this totally epic fanfare feeling. And the Spitfire doesn't have this. It's more for slurred lines, for, you know, contextual thing where I put it in the mix and it just blends well with the entire brass section, but it's not as impressive and epic and outstanding and upfront. But I wanted this upfront feeling, so I decided to go with Cinebrass and see what I could do so that the patches actually do what I want them to do. Let's solo the legato up here, and these shorts too, and let's see what the line actually plays. As a matter of fact, in the end there, I had quite a few issues to get the emphasis. I would love to have a sforzando patch or something like that, but I didn't have one. And I had the choice between quarter notes, which were too long, eighths were too short, and doing it legato was basically going to blend and didn't have enough attack. So what I did was I stacked legato and shorts on top of each other, trying to have a hard attack by stacking the shorts on top of the legatos, which sounds bad when having them soloed, but it will sound nice in context, right? So that's the entire idea. So after doing that, I did the horns, because the horns in this piece are playing a kind of supportive harmonic role. So I did the same thing, but I pulled up a different library. I pulled up Orchestral Tools Metropolis Arc 1 for this, the 9 horns patch. And those have separate patches for each articulation. So I had to pull up 2 as well, the sustains and the staccatos. And that's really easy. It's a quite similar line. Let's solo them up and play with those together and see what they do. And that's already it. That's all they do. I could probably have done more with those, but, you know, it's not an optimal piece. I'm just learning as well. Basically, this was a quick idea and I was pretty fine with it. That's all the horns do. So the next thing that I did, and was the most complicated thing, obviously, are the trumpets, which doing the high stuff, the high staccatos most of the time, and the high lines. And I found them in the original piece to be really piercing and upfront and basically dominating the entire piece. Whenever they play, they basically overshadow everything else. They are just impressive and doing the thing. And I tried to replicate this, but I found that every instrument that I picked, every trumpet that I picked, and I've got a lot of those, wasn't enough. So I thought, why not layer them and have multiple trumpets play the same thing and choose a few of them which layer really well. And I tried this and I ended up with a pretty nice arrangement here. And I actually pulled up 3 different trumpets here. I picked up 1 trumpet patch from Cinebrass Sonore, 1 trumpet staccatissimo from Orchestral Tools Metropolis Arc 1 again, and 1 solo trumpet from Cinebrass Pro, which really adds a bite to the entire section. Let's listen to them individually. Let's listen to Cinebras Sonore's trumpet first. There we go, that's Cinebras Sonore. Now I thought this is really panned hard right? Not really upfront, it's more supportive role. But that's fine, because we now have the staccatissимos from Orchestral tunes. Metropolis Arc 1, let's listen to those. So this is a trumpet which is really up front and right in the middle and basically blasting you right in the face, and combined with the more panned right alternative, which is a really nice supplement to this. It's awesome. But I thought, why not add a third one as well, a solo trumpet, and I picked the one from Cinebras Pro, and it really adds a different flavor, a different texture. Let's listen to it as well. There we go. And all three together sound like this. And I thought this was upfront enough and really piercing through the mix. And now let's play the entire brass section all together. In unison, let's have them play their part. So that's the entire brass section. Let's continue to the strings, because this is the second section that I did. The strings are the foundation of the orchestra. And in the piece, in the original piece, the strings are doing the backbone, the thing that you barely notice actually, but they're doing the lower chords, the chords that really drive the rhythm of the piece. So that's why I thought, let's continue with the strings, and the section that actually started with were the bass. The double basses, let's see what they do. And I added a nice cello on top, which is playing an octave and a fifth above. Let's play this. And I decided to go even a step higher and add a viola to this, and it basically does almost the same here. And that's all for the strings, and all together they sound like this. Okay, that's the entire string section. It's not really impressive as well, but it really does its thing. It's basically given the rhythm and driving the piece. The last thing was the woodwinds, and I was really struggling with those because I knew that they were a lot of woodwinds in there, but they were quite hidden. They were doing the high and fast passages in between, but they're also sitting really, really quiet in the mix. You are barely noticeable, so it was really hard to get the lines down, and so I ended up with a lot less woodwinds than the original piece had. But that's fine. It's my alternative piece, my alternative approach on that, and it's fine. And that was definitely the thing that I had to pass. Would be really nice to see the score for this, but it was kind of wild ride. So here's what I did. I have the same situation with Woodwinds here. I had to split into legato and short patches due to the delay. I've got a Piccolo, legato, and shorts as two separate tracks. Let's solo them and play them. And I have this exact same situation with the normal flute and the oboe. They are basically doing all the same thing, but in their respective octaves. Let's play the flutes once. It's not really optimized, and although the rule of thumb should be every single melodic line should sound awesome on its own, then the mix would definitely sound great as well. I thought like I would turn the woodwinds down in volume anyway. It would be sitting in the mix. It will barely be able to actually hear it. So the flaws of the composing, of the arranging in the DAW would probably become unnoticeable anyway. So I thought, I won't take the time to actually optimize on this, but it's fine. You could definitely improve this, but it's working, I think. Here's the oboe. Same situation here. It's basically just doubled the MIDI that was not well programmed, but it's working when sitting in the mix. You know, I already noticed that it's really quiet because that's as quiet as I turned it down. Let's play them all in context, all together, the entire woodwind section. And that's for all the melodic pieces, or most of the melodic pieces of the orchestra. The last thing that we're missing are the percussions. Let's see what I did here. So the first thing that I put up was a timpani, obviously. It's basically doing some emphasis to emphasize on different sections, on different hits, on basically give more impact to what the other instruments are doing. Let's solo those up and play them through. Then I continued to have some more emphasis on the really important things, which is a really huge bass drum in the original piece, which is too boomy for my taste. It really, the bassy vibes should have been, you know, filtered by an EQ, I think, because sometimes it's really rumbling a lot. And I thought I would like to pick the epic trailer hits from Orchestral to its Metropolis Arc 1 again, and it's basically just, you know, emphasizing with some of those hits. Then I added a Mark III, which is a really interesting instrument, actually, because it's doing this sparkling, really high sound that you usually know from any fantasy thing with fairies and all this kind of stuff. It's really awesome. I enjoyed using this instrument for the very first time in my case. Really awesome sound here. And that's all it does. And it's fine. I decided to opt for a tubular bell here as well, which is doing one single hit at the very end, which is something that the original piece did not do, but I found it to be, you know, I love the tubular bells for what they are, and I really like to sprinkle them into any project that I do. So here is the tubular bells. All of this, with the only exception being Orchestral 2s, by the way, is from Cineperc. The next thing is some suspended cymbals, which I sprinkled in there as well. Let's solo them up. And some gongs and tamtams. That's all she wrote. Let's play the entire percussion section all together. And the only thing that's left is Project Sam's adaptive runs with a strings and winds run patch, which is basically doing a lot of runs, especially during the first part of the piece. And here's what it does. That's the entire piece, broken down to its very core. But of course, you will get all of that in context right now. The entire piece, Orchestral Practice Piece, number 1, Fanfare, a cover from Hudson Holland. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed the content, getting some insight into my orchestration and arranging process. And if you like the content, then feel free to subscribe, leave a comment, let me know what else I should have explained or what else you want to know. And feel free to ask questions. I will respond to them as soon as possible. Don't forget to visit Hudson Holland's channel as well. He is obviously doing some awesome music, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.